Sukuigar Vode, and welcome to Cassus Café, episode 7 of our Mandalorian Season 3 reviews. Welcome, I'm here with Kli'nah.
Hello.
And Captain.
Good evening, or afternoon, or morning, wherever you are.
Yeah, it's just the three of us this week. Saren is behind and missing, and Tykoth is once again having issues with Trandosians, so we will hopefully be getting them back next week. But for now, episode 7. First off, I really enjoyed this episode.
Me too.
In general, just really enjoyable. There's a lot that I thought was really cool, and there was some that I thought was neat given the context of Disney's story and what kind of connections they're making through there and stuff, but it's not without its issues, so I'm sure we'll get to those as well. What are your thoughts, Cap?
I liked it more than last week. They're doing what I hope they wouldn't do, and so therefore I don't like it as much.
Gotcha. Interesting. Well, we'll figure out what that is, I'm sure. So I guess we will go ahead and start with the really interesting, and I thought was neat and good opening, where, of course, we start with this short little thing on Coruscant, where we see that Gideon's talking to the spy chick that he's got in the Republic, and that was all well and good. But it didn't really get interesting until we cut to Gideon, and it goes to wherever he's at this point, we don't know. But it's interesting because it does kind of matter where he is, because this whole call that he's doing with the Shadow Council is really neat. But before I get too far into it, I want to know what Cap thinks about this scene.
Well, so I must say I like the aesthetic. It kind of gave me some sort of like cyberpunk feel.
Me too. I really like the look of everything as well.
Yeah.
It felt like it was raining, which I think it feels kind of I don't say it was wrong, but it is a bit odd for a planet that's covered in a city.
Well, also it's a little interesting because Coruscant has regulated weather. Like, they can control the weather on the planet, so.
Right, and I wondered if that was the case for something like a planet of this, size. Usually when it rains, that's usually because they've had to get some sort of water evaporate in the sky, and I'm like, I don't think there's any lakes on this planet. At least not anymore.
No, not anymore, unless they're deep.
Right. So with that said, it feels kind of odd. I mean, aesthetically, it adds to the shot, so I know why they did it, because it goes, ooh, pretty, looks neat. But again, it always catches me as somebody who's more of a practical person, like, kind of confused why it's raining on this planet. So,
I mean, to be fair, and I've mentioned this, not in our reviews, but in our discussions before I ever started this channel, but there's a point in Revenge of the Sith where at the end, when they're walking Vader's burnt body to the medical room or whatever on Coruscant, it's raining there too. It's like a full-on thunderstorm going on. So freaking Palpatine did that just for thematic effect, because like they can regulate the weather on Coruscant. It was established in Legends, at least. I don't know what it is in Disney, but in Legends, they had regulated weather on Coruscant. So when he did that, he did that on purpose. I thought that was funny. But yeah, it's something similar here. It's fine. I didn't really care too much.
It's not a big deal, but the details are things that I look for.
Yeah. So getting to the Shadow Council scene, did anything stand out to you other than the obvious? Like the people there and stuff. That's
how many laser gates do you need to get into your secret room?
That made me reminisce. It made me think about the episode 1 when they were fighting Maul.
Yeah.
It really made me think of that.
Mm-hmm.
But in reverse.
Yeah, I was like, That's what my brain immediately went to as well, and I was kind of confused. Like, okay, but they're not fighting. I don't understand why.
I also thought, like, man, that would suck to be one of those stormtroopers that has to stand in between those shields because there was one in each sector. And I'm like, man, what if you like got to use the restroom and like
I was
switch
just
out?
thinking
Like,
It's like, and why were, I know it's just to look cool, but why were they even there in the first place? It's not like they're in a hidden facility. It's not like he needs guards at every single area.
What's the point of them being there? Like, if they're there to guard the place, they wouldn't be able to get out to fight the person invading unless they open all the shields to get to the. It defeats the purpose.
I was about to make a comment on that. It's like, oh, they've breached the first shield. Here's 2 stormtroopers. Oh no, they've killed those 2 stormtroopers. Disables another shield. Oh no, I'm outnumbered again. It's like, what's your plan here?
Yeah. So what stood out to me about this scene that I didn't catch until, once again, I'm referencing another YouTuber. I was watching Josh from Dev Nerds live stream. Some person in his chat brought this up, and that threw him for a loop, threw me for a loop. But it makes sense, and it also kind of spoils a little bit later where it's revealed where he is. But it's important because I'll try and quote what I heard as much as possible because it was pretty great. How did Gideon have a 10-minute Zoom call with the Shadow Council if there's no comms on Mandalore? Because that's where he is. He's on Mandalore. And they weren't able to contact their fleet because of the storm and stuff. You know, when Din first got there, he lost contact and wasn't able to send any, messages out of the planet. So how did Gideon have his little meeting there, and how did he talk to his spy on Coruscant when there's none of that going on the surface of Mandalore?
Space magic. But yeah, this is actually a clever thing to pull up because when you first watch this scene, you don't know that he's on Mandalore, so none of this conflicts with you, and you're going, this all seems pretty reasonable, except for the bunch of laser gates and the stormtroopers between them. But yeah, if you watch it again and you know where he is, this shouldn't be possible unless there's a giant, I don't know, radio tower that sticks above the clouds so they can get a signal out to space that way. I mean,
you think if that was the case, those Mandalorians that we'll get to that were stuck on the planet the whole time would have noticed something like
or
that.
The people around the planet would have noticed it, in an atmosphere.
It's like how they can have holo calls while in hyperspace.
Yeah.
Because aren't they not supposed to be able to do that?
No.
But they do it on all the new movies anyway.
They do it all the time.
Yeah.
Or how about the fact they have no lag when talking, when they're on different parts of the galaxy? I'm sure there's a ping issue.
Yeah, especially if he's on Mandalore talking to somebody on Coruscant. That's like millions of light years away. But yeah, that was a funny little thing that I heard, and I was like, you know what? How did they have that meeting? But when it comes to the meeting, with all that out of the way, and we can just turn our brains off, not think about it anymore. What did you think about Pelion? Because do you know who Pelion is?
Well, first of all, which one of these dudes is Pelion?
The guy that's talking up Thrawn and.
Okay, I felt like I've seen him before, but
well,
I can't put my finger on where I've seen him before.
So this is another lore dive, but Pelion, I don't know much about the guy playing him, but Pelion, the character, he, in the Thrawn trilogy, he was Captain Pelion, just like he is as we see him in the show, but he was Thrawn's right-hand man, and he was with him like the whole time.
Oh, okay.
And he's really ride or die Thrawn simp. So...
Really? I couldn't tell from watching the show.
So his character is pretty much the same, it seems, so far, where he's like heralding in and getting everyone ready for Thrawn to return and stuff, and he might probably be with Thrawn, who knows. That's who he is. And then we don't know really who the other people are, except one other person. It was...
I believe it's Hux, right?
Hux, yeah. He was the father of the guy from the sequels. General Hux from the sequels.
Oh, okay, so they're not the exact same person, but they are related. Okay.
He's the dad. He's supposed to be the father of Armitage Hux, which is the guy from the sequels. And
Okay.
funnily enough, the actor who plays this guy that's supposed to be Hux's dad is actually the real life actor brother. So
Okay.
yeah,
I was
so
looking at him. I thought it was maybe the same person because they look so similar.
Nah, it's his brother.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so Domhnall Gleeson, he plays General Hux in the sequels, and then his brother plays this guy, that's supposed to be his dad.
So you know what that means? That brother is going to be like, haha, I'm your dad in Star Wars. Deal with it.
No, he's gonna be like, I am your father.
Dang it. But yeah, this whole scene was really neat. That's all the real deep lore dives I have for this scene. And overall, it was really cool.
I really enjoyed this scene.
I liked the opening a lot, that whole meeting scene. Because it just kind of expanded on what the Empire remnants are doing and how some of them are for Thrawn and some of them aren't. And that's pretty much how it was really in Legends. Obviously, there's differences in this show. And Gideon, obviously, he's not a huge fan of Thrawn because he's just like, where is he?
Well, and he wants to be in charge rather than
he probably wants to be in charge. He probably thinks his research and stuff and all this clone stuff that he's wanting to do, that we'll probably get into a little bit more later, is the future, you know.
I really liked this scene, and I thought it was the first time we had a scene at the beginning, or generally in an episode, that had nothing to do with the Mandalorians, really, that still felt like it fit in the episode.
I think it feels that way because Gideon's like the main character in that scene. And
he's the antagonist.
He's the antagonist
but
of the show.
I also thought it was so good how they connected the girl talking through the probe droid to this next scene, how he was like in the hallway and then hung up on her and went over. I thought that was nice, tying those two scenes together as well.
Yeah, the pacing for this whole opening was a lot better than what we've been getting. Though I still have pacing issues for this episode later.
Oh yes.
So is there anything else you want to comment on about this scene in particular?
Yeah, I do have a few comments. One is that, they obviously name dropped Thrawn again.
Yep.
The first time it happened, it was in the previous season with Ahsoka when she was fighting, what's her face? I forgot.
Morgan Elsbeth.
Cool. When that happened, the internet went crazy and was like, oh, Thrawn, right? Mm-hmm. They could have had a similar reaction here again, but I feel like they shot themselves in the foot by announcing the Ahsoka trailer like a week earlier.
Yeah, but I think the equivalent for people who know Thrawn and his story will also know Pellaeon, because Pellaeon was first mentioned in Disney canon in Rebels. Thrawn mentions him in Rebels. It was like very late, and it was only once, but he was mentioned. But he's a very prominent character in the Thrawn trilogy. So that character being put into live action finally, and people seeing him, and he looks just like the character from Legends, was probably people's biggest reaction to this episode in regards to that kind of Legends character being introduced.
Yeah, it's a minor pick, but I would have liked to watch this and been like, ooh, we're talking about Thrawn again.
And then after watching it, seeing the Ahsoka trailer and be like, oh.
Yeah, it would have been like a single name drop last season, which was a couple years ago. Then they talk more about Thrawn in general in the scene, not just mention his name once. And we have his right-hand man here talking. People that know about Thrawn would have been like, ooh, does that mean we're going to eventually see Thrawn in the future? That could have been a great way to kind of hype up. And then, you could have had the Ahsoka trailer drop.
Even though I don't necessarily like what they're doing, obviously. If you've seen me and Cap's Ahsoka trailer reaction, you know how my feelings are about this. But I also still can't help but feel the hype in a sense, just that because it's a really prominent character from Legends, but also in Rebels as well. And it's been years since Rebels wrapped up. And just to see these characters come back from Rebels, which was a show I enjoyed for the most part, I think there's a lot of hype and speculation about what's happened since then, what is going on, because there's a lot of questions still. Like, they've been teasing stuff for a few years, but there's still questions about where is Thrawn, what's he doing, what's he been doing this whole time, where's Ezra, that kind of stuff. So I can feel the hype still, even if it's just a little dumbed down from the Ahsoka trailer launching a little bit before this episode. I still feel like there's hype there.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I think the scene would have been a little bit more exciting. That's all.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really minor nitpick, but to me, it did not grab my attention like it did in season 2. I was like, oh yeah, I saw Thrawn in the trailer, and now they're all they can talk about is Thrawn in this episode.
Yeah.
Feels like more like an advertisement to me.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah, and it's probably just gonna be sort of like a Marvel thing now, where every little tidbit
everything connects now.
It's gonna connect at some point. Yeah,
right, which I'm not opposed to. Other than that, I like the scene. Again, it kind of gives some context to the galaxy and as in the state of that it's in right now. This is something I feel like Star Wars needs to keep doing, is letting us know what the galaxy's like. Knowing that, hey, there's like several major Imperial warlords, and they're purposely trying to keep on the down low to the point that the New Republic doesn't care or think they're not really a threat.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what is happening.
Which is interesting, because I feel like if they knew that the Republic, or the New Republic, was demilitarizing, which I feel like they should since they have spies in the New Republic, as we've seen, why wouldn't they just consolidate all their power and yeet them again?
Well, that sounds like that's what Gideon's trying to do, because they keep waiting for Thrawn and Thrawn's not showing up.
Well, yeah. And right now, Gideon's rebuilt, like they're all seem like they're rebuilding their army and waiting for the right time to attack.
Yep. Yeah. Which also kind of builds towards, unfortunately, the First Order.
Yeah. What do you think Project Necromancer is? That they mentioned.
My guess, that's them getting the Emperor back.
That's what I thought.
I think so too. There's a few speculations that maybe it's referring to what Thrawn is up to, but it doesn't make any sense because the Hux guy is in charge of that, and the whole First Order thing ended up being Palpatine. So.
No, I think it's them preparing for, like, showing what happened before the movie. Yeah. Trying to make that connect to the current.
Trying to show how they resuscitated Palps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen like glimpse of this with earlier seasons when they saw all those tubes, and you even saw the tubes here at the beginning of this episode, where it looked something like cloning technology. I think it's a combination of like using a mixture of cloning tech and other things to try to bring the Emperor back. Right? Because it took him how long before he was like, all right, I'm back. It wouldn't be it's not a surprise that he probably had a plan in place, right?
Yeah.
Or something like this. Or the Empire was like so loyal to them, even in death, they're like, we're going to rebuild and we're going to bring him back from the dead because we need his leadership.
Yeah. I hate anything having to do with the sequels.
Same. Which is, again, what frustrates me when they do this with this show, because it takes it the backwater space cowboy and then connects it to part of the lore
giant,
that none of us want,
the giant awful saga that comes 30 years later, or
25 years in this case.
Yeah. So let's just go ahead and move on to the next bit where the Mandalorians show up on Navarro, and this was one of the coolest shots.
Yes.
Like, I loved pretty much everything having to do with the Mandalorian fleet, because it just looked so cool. The scale was on point. The camera angles were on point. And especially on Navarro, where you just see it from the ground looking up, and it's just, like, massive.
You make a light cruiser look amazingly scary and imposing.
Yeah. Though I think they're jumping the gun a little, because now they have a fleet, and they have a lot more Mandalorians than they did have. But I still think they need more. They don't have near enough Mandalorians to take a planet.
See, this is major issue number 1 for me.
Yeah.
Because we start with, hey, we just got a place that a planet doesn't want to kill us for. We get one extra tribe, and we're like, all right, time to retake Mandalore. It's been like a day. You know,
It really does feel like it's been like 2 days.
I'm just like, are you kidding me, guys? What's the point of having a home on this planet if you're just gonna skip to this part?
Yeah, that was a bit interesting. Like, come on, like we can't have Vo go find like Fen Rao first. That like this episode should have been earlier in the season, at least parts of it, and then they should have, instead of going to Mandalore right after they get to Navarro, she should have gone off and found
got
more
Mandalorians,
and Grief Karga could still have some Mandalorians there, and not be sad.
Yeah.
But no, they bring him back and they just yeet off to Mandalore. I'm like, what?
Yeah, and this is my issue. This is just way too quick. I'm pretty sure I said this last week. The thing I did not want to see was retaking Mandalore and dealing with Moff Gideon in the last 2 episodes, and that's exactly where we're heading.
I feel like I would be okay with it. I think the whole messing with Moff Gideon at the last 2 episodes works, but it doesn't feel earned. Like,
we needed a better lead up to this.
We need a way better lead up to going to Mandalore, and like I mentioned.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem them fighting with Moff Gideon at the end of this season. I think that would be a good finale. I just think it feels a bit odd to have both that and potentially retaking the entire planet in 2 episodes.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel right.
They could have nixed entire episode 6, except for them coming and finding the Mandalorians, and then bringing them back to Navarro, and then the next episode could be her going to find another group like Fen Rao's protectors or something, or Boba Fett or anyone else, and then bring them back. And then after they're all conglomerated, then they can go to Mandalore. But no, it's just like the rest of the season. It feels rushed.
It is. It's exactly what it is. It's rushed.
This season is simultaneously slow and rushed at the same time. It's still just the weirdest pacing I've ever seen.
Yeah, and this is like why I think retaking Mandalore should not have been this season. I was like, this needs to be season 4. And if you wanted to do it proper, you could have season 4 of her getting more tribes to join their side and using Navarro as a staging ground as they got more and more people.
Exactly,
and then you have your season 4 finale of a Mandalorian army, not a small fleet, a grand army retaking the planet.
For sure.
And I would have killed to see that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It feels like Disney wanted it now, and it feels rushed.
It's too small of a force. It feels like, no, there's no reason why Gideon's forces probably couldn't overwhelm them, especially if he has reinforcements from whoever else.
Yeah, it feels so ill thought out on the Mandalorian side. The armor didn't say, hey, go and find one clan to help us out.
Yeah.
Get all of them so we can retake Mando. She gets one group.
She just goes back to her old buds and brings them back.
She brings back her old buds, and they're like, all right, time to retake Mandalore. I'm like, oh.
Really? Are you sure about that?
While their fleet is respectable, I'm sure, maybe 2 or 3 Star Destroyers could probably pick the crap out of that fleet. You have a light cruiser, which... impressive for what you are, is nothing compared to even, I think, a single Star Destroyer. Get wrecked.
They need way more. 1 Star Destroyer is like 3 times the size of that.
But who do they expect to find when they go retake Mandalore?
It's not who they're expecting to find, it's who they're expecting to deal with once they have it. That's the issue.
I guess.
Yeah, it's like the Imperial Remnant, the New Republic, both of them probably wouldn't enjoy a resurgent Mandalore.
Yeah, they destroyed it for a reason.
Right. And we see even in this episode, they're like, we can't let them reunite. That'd be a problem.
Especially in the context of Gideon having his base there now, and it being like a top secret thing.
Yeah. Now, I would have liked to that been like, we're not retaking Mandalore, but we're gonna, scout out the planet. Learn more about it, right? They could have totally made that the intention and not retaking it with the idea of like, hey, if we scout out the planet, we can tell other clans, hey, it's not poisoned. This is what's left. We can rebuild. There's hope, right?
Yeah.
Rebellions are built on hope. Wait, wrong one. Sorry. But yeah, I think that would have been a more proper season finale if you really wanted to have Mandalore a centerpiece. Is that they were just scouting it out, maybe going from there, and then they accidentally stumble across Gideon, and then be like, "Oh crap, huh?"
Man, it just kind of pains me to think how much better the season could have been.
Yes.
Looking back on it, like, and who knows what the last episode's going to be, but I know it's going to feel rushed because the rest of the season feels rushed, even this episode.
I am simultaneously looking forward to the finale and dreading it.
Yeah,
because I know what they might do.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure if I want it or not.
There's a lot of speculation and rumors about what's going to happen in the next episode, but we will touch that later, maybe.
Yeah.
But we will 100% touch that later.
And we thought this season was supposed to be about him getting redeemed.
Yeah, right.
Look where we are now.
Yeah.
If you're not sick from whiplash, I mean, I don't know.
It's like pedal to the metal, floor it all the way to here.
Yeah.
So they arrive, and Grief Karga comes to welcome them. He got there really fast.
Well, I would be too. I mean, when a fleet like that shows up above my planet and when I have basically nothing, please be my side. Let's be friends.
So I was like, last time the people here saw a giant ship coming over them, they were invaded. Why is no one freaking out at this moment? Like,
I actually thought that's what was happening. I was like, they're like, oh no, not again.
Well,
right?
They're looking up and being like, oh, what is that? But no one's running and hiding and gathering materials to flee. They're all just looking.
Yeah. That was kind of interesting, but maybe they understood because they saw the symbol on the bottom of the ship.
Maybe they're smarter than the droid.
Yeah, the droid's not smart. Not smart. But yeah, so he gives Din a bottle of wine and stuff, and is like, oh yay, more Mandalorians,
and then they leave.
And then they leave. And no, we never see that wine again. Who knows where that went?
He's not going to be able to drink it.
They left it on the planet.
Yeah. So do you think that all the Mandalorians left, or did they leave a few with the children or something on Navarro? Because I don't know. Honestly.
I was wondering the same thing, right? This is what I was talking about. Yeah, they made a new home just to leave it.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is the part I hate. They took all the effort to give them a place where they're not hated just for them to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And now who's going to protect Navarro?
Yeah. Can you imagine being the leader, be like, hey, I finally got his protection, and they left.
Yeah.
Dude. That reminds me, there's a meme, Grief Karga watching the Mandalorians leave after thinking they'd stay and protect Navarro.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, no, what? Why? Where are they going? Oh, man. Yeah, so kind of backtracking a little bit. I mean, it is after Grief gives him the wine, but before they leave, obviously, he takes Din into his office and introduces him to IG-12. We get IG back, Captain. Are you finally satisfied?
No. I'm gonna be like, no.
So I take it you're not a
goodness.
fan of Grogu driving IG-12.
No.
I thought it was kind of clever, honestly. I think it's fine. I think it's a cop-out. I think it's a bit of a cop-out on how they make Grogu talk. But
it's like they teased bringing IG-11 back.
Yeah.
And then they then they give you this Walmart, general brand version, which is IG-12.
Yeah.
However, they kind of needed to do something. Otherwise, that whole plot point in the first episode would have felt useless by the end.
Well, here's a thought. How about actually give IG-11 back?
Yeah, but unfortunately...
He's a droid. I know we always talk about, cheating death is, takes some of the sting out of it when it
A
happens.
droid could defeat death realistically.
Right, and that's what I was about to say. But it's
Yeah.
a droid. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's not a person.
He can be remade.
We have the technology.
We have the technology.
So
It just needs the same memory core.
Right. That's all they needed. They said. And instead, they decide to just put Grogu in its seat to drive it.
Got him out, and now Grogu drives his carcass.
Yeah.
Yeah, because here's the thing.
So sad.
It'd be different if it was half IG-11, like maybe his duty to protect is still active, but he just can't walk, and Grogu has to do it. Because then we could have IG-11 still doing the spinny bits and killing stuff, and then just Grogu's driving, right? No, it's just Grogu walking around on IG-12's corpse, or excuse me, IG-11's corpse, and instead of being in his little pod. And it's not like he's taking, I was thinking oh, he's finally gonna take a blaster off the ground and start shooting and stuff. No, he doesn't do any of that.
I don't understand Grogu because he's so stupid, but then at other times he kind of seems smart. But I don't get his character sometimes.
Because he wasn't supposed to be in the series after this point?
Yeah, I still feel like he wasn't really meant to be in this season.
Mm-hmm. This episode really made me feel that way.
Yeah,
it is
just
interesting.
Tagged along the whole time, basically.
Well, and it felt like even Mando was getting really fed up with Grogu too, and I felt Mando's pain because I was like, yeah, I'm kind of getting fed up with him as well.
It's like, this isn't working out for me.
Exactly.
I think it's also funny that while he's given IG-12, Mando's like, he's too young. He doesn't want him to drive him and stuff. Mm-hmm. But then just the next scene, he's purposely volunteering Grogu and himself to be in the landing party. Yeah. Which is very dangerous. So he's too young to drive IG, but he's not too young to come with you on a dangerous mission? Okay. Which is, in fairness, he's been on dangerous missions with him since season 1. But that's why I was like, what's the difference? What's the difference here?
And then later he breaks up a fight, and they're like, you taught him well? He's like, I didn't teach him that.
And there's 2 scenes where I just felt like John, or whoever wrote the episode, I think it was John, it was just like, frick it, Grogu's gonna say yes 10 times, and then when they're volunteering, the whole scene is just like, I will go. It just repetitive. Just you guys just say the same lines, whatever. There's no deviation. It's just, I will go. It's not like there's no variations. There's no I'll go or me too's or that kind of stuff. It's really interesting, really weird.
It didn't bother me because I think this is something that's been done in other shows and other genres. I
think it bothered me more because we just got out of a scene where Grogu was
saying this,
going yes.
Which by a certain point, I was like, okay, I get it. Shut up, please. Mm-hmm. And he went on for another 20 yeses, and I was just ripped the headphones off.
Put him on mute.
So they leave. We get back to the part where they leave, and we've kind of been over that. It's just weird.
I must admit, when they were volunteering, I was like, when Paz Vizsla volunteered, I was like, yes. And then I saw the armor, I was like, ooh, interesting, right?
Yeah.
Later, I'm not gonna skip ahead.
It's like, well, who all the main characters are coming on this recon mission, so who's left up to monitor the fleet? No one we know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of puts the fleet in a precarious position. There's no one up there we know. They could be toast.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of red shirts. But then, later on, the armor goes back up there. I thought when they get to Mandalore and they break through the clouds, the people looking down, some of them, that's the first time they've looked down since they've been there last, which was years ago. And I thought it was really neat how a lot of them were just shaking their heads and saying how it was worse than they thought. Paz said it's worse than he thought, but him and Axe had kind of the moment, together where Axe was like, I was here when it happened kind of thing.
Right.
I wish they would have sat on that moment for a little bit longer, because this could have been a really good time to make us be emotional and have us be more tied to some of these characters and have another break and a pause and a breather rather than just, nope, we're done.
So you're saying there's more pacing issues? Shocker.
Yeah. There's an issue with that later I have too, where it's just like, in general, I don't feel like they're too scared to stay on a moment or a scene for too long. They have to just get to the next thing as quick as possible, almost.
Yeah.
It's really weird sometimes.
I really would have liked, because they kind of did it, where they were starting to chat about, like, I was here when it happened. I wasn't, right? This could have been, like, a great way for the two differences to bond the morning over their home world, right? This could have been a moment where they could have really taken the time to get these two different ways of Mandalorian culture to try to bond together more, right? But like you said, they didn't stay on it long enough, and they just kind of went, all right, on to the next moment.
Yep. And it's kind of funny because they drop out, and this is just a little context for what I'm about to say, but they drop out and they scan the area, and then the ship lands. And I'm just kind of wondering, at least on my second watch through, I wondered, like, why did they have to do that? Doesn't the ship have some kind of scanners for life or something? They could be like, oh, this seems like a good spot. We can land here.
I have an issue for a different reason.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, didn't land on the planet without doing it. Then Bo did it to rescue him without doing it. All of a sudden, when they're coming back, it's like, no, we must do a hot drop. And I'm just sitting going, but why?
I just think John wanted another cool Mandalorians coming out of the sky.
Yeah,
probably.
And the problem is that every time they've been here beforehand, it wasn't necessary. So,
which is fair because it looks cool AF, but it doesn't make sense.
Right. Now, if one of those ships had been destroyed previously after landing because they didn't survey the area, then I've been like, okay, fair enough. You learned your lesson, right? But that, it's like.
But it also could be because Bo, she's the only one that knows there's actually a mythosaur there. So she could be like, well, let's make sure the mythosaur's not running around, And
well, she knows
she drops them in.
She knows it's beneath the one of those mines.
Yeah, but she knows that it's alive. It can leave if it wanted to.
Is the mythosaur a creature that lives outside of the water as well?
Yeah,
as
so
underwater?
this is the first time, like I've said, we've seen the mythosaur in live action, and they've portrayed it as being like living under it, like in the living waters.
Yeah.
So like almost like a sea creature kind of thing, like a sea dragon almost. But in Legends, there's nothing specifically saying that they live in water or they don't. As far as
so it could be like an amphibian.
It could live underwater. I think traditionally in Legends it was more of a dragon-like creature that didn't live in the water.
Maybe it's an amphibian / bird, so it can do all the things.
It was basically a crate dragon on steroids on Mandalore.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I think if the mythosaur was around, considering his size, I'm pretty sure you would have seen evidence of it.
Yeah.
Like gigantic tracks. So, like, yeah. I understand what you're saying, but logically speaking, I'm pretty sure you would have seen the footprints from, once you got through the clouds.
Yeah, I'm just trying to give apologetics as to why they would have rationalized this.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I only watched it once,
it makes sense.
And I was like, why are you guys doing a hot drop? Well, I will point out though that they did eventually land to let the armor out. Something they didn't do when they attacked the pirates on Navarro.
Yeah. Did she just walk out though?
I'm pretty sure she does.
Yeah, I think it's Bo, Din, and the armor.
And IG-12.
IG-12.
And IG-12, yeah.
Yeah, they just walk off. They all walk off.
Alright, well, that makes sense then.
Yeah. Don't see why they couldn't just done that and everyone walked off.
Yeah. So, the next bit, they go off, they're trying to find the forge, but the next bit is something that I think they could have done way better and would have come in, like, introduced Fen Rao, which is what I thought was happening when the pirate ship kind of thing comes towards them, and they're talking, and they find out there are other Mandalorians, like, oh my gosh, is this going to be Fen Rao and his people? But no, it's just some randos that have been
surviving on the planet.
They've been Mad Maxing it on Mandalore for a while, and it's whatever. Who cares? And I was so hoping like, oh, it's gonna be Fen Rao, because that's been a rumor that he's gonna come in at some point, but I guess not. Who knows? Maybe in episode 8. There's so many rumors and so many leaks and so many things that supposedly have been confirmed that haven't happened yet. That they're gonna have to cram a frick ton of stuff into the last episode for any of that to come to fruition. And I don't know if they can do it realistically.
Or if they do, it will be hilariously bad.
Yeah, like I will say the runtime of the last episode is going to be very telling. If I see that it's like in the 30-minute range, like
it's
a little over
trash.
30 minutes, so maybe if it's under 40, it's going to be bad, in my opinion. They just have way too much ground to cover for 40 minutes, because we know that 40 minutes is not really 40 minutes. It's more like 35, maybe, because we've got the intro and then the credits.
What you need is like a 2-hour finale.
Yeah, or an hour at the least, I would hope, like maybe a 50-something to an hour episode, because Fen Rao was leaked or / rumored. I don't know the legitimacy of all these, but Boba Fett was supposedly confirmed, but there's no real setup for him coming either, or Fen Rao. There's no setup for any of them.
He's gonna do exactly what you wanted him doing. He just shows up and takes the Darksaber, right?
Dude, I wish, but no, I doubt it. And I want the Mythosaur to come back in the picture. I was hoping that we get way more of that, but if it's just pulled out of Bo's butt at the end of the season in the next episode, whatever. At least there'll be more Mythosaur. But it's going to be so sudden and jarring, all the stuff that they've got to fit in this last episode. If they do any of that, if they even do that, they could do something completely off the wall, completely separate from what we were hearing, and it could be good. And it could also be trash. So who knows? We'll have to see. I thought the setup for it in this episode, given what we got in this episode, the setup for next episode was really good. Like it has potential, and I'm really interested to see where it goes. But in the context of the leaks and rumors and stuff that's supposedly confirmed, I don't know, and I don't see how they can tie it all together in one last episode. It's going to be interesting.
Not unless it's really long.
Yeah, and that was a bit of a tangent, but all right. So let's get moving. So what did you think about the pirate ship and the Mandalorians that have been Mad Maxing it?
I think you just described what I saw. I was like, oh,
yeah,
Mad Max. It almost looks like it was a boat that was supposed to be on water. I don't know if Mandalore has water, but
it does. It's supposed to in Legends.
Well, supposed to at least.
Well,
it may not be there now,
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised that boat had lasted that long, because then all of a sudden they come up upon this creature and it just yeets the boat immediately. Like that's never happened before. How have they avoided it in the past and couldn't avoid it now?
There's a certain scene that I think it's kind of important to talk about.
There's a lot of certain scenes once they get on the boat.
It's almost like you don't have any sense of like plot progression and pacing.
So they get on the boat and they're, riding off to wherever. There's this big scene where they're all gathered at the table, having dinner or whatever, talking.
Mm-hmm.
And Bo decides to just drop a giant bomb on them in the form of exposition. And the speech and the explanation and all this stuff, it puts a piece of the puzzle together that we didn't know before. It was fine. It was really interesting, tidbit of what happened with her and Gideon and stuff. But I felt like, and I might be influenced a little bit because this is also something Josh from Dead and Nerds talked about as well, but I do agree, and I think that they could have done that a little better, where instead of a giant lore dump, it could have had some flashbacks while she's having a voiceover speech, like her submitting to Gideon and more of the bombing and stuff.
Stuff
Yeah,
that we've
instead
seen
of her
before, like.
Well, yeah, but maybe expounded upon.
Well, that's what I mean. Like we've seen like images and flashbacks of like the
Yeah.
bombings and stuff. Like this would have been a very important point of her trying to surrender and then being betrayed, right? That's a pretty important point in the history of the planet.
Mhm.
And it's like, no, I just told you. You have to imagine what it
I
looked like.
did like this speech the first time I watched through it, but it's not very rewatchable in my opinion. Like the second time watching through it, I was like, okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
But the first time it was important to me because I don't know her whole backstory
Yeah. And
as a casual watcher.
Right. So I think it would help that scene, and it would be more rewatchable if they did have those kind of flashbacks.
I agree.
Now that I mention it, I could see, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the scene after that, Din comes and basically confesses his love for her, saying, I don't care about the Darksaber, I care about you, and that's why I'll follow you till the ends of the earth.
I wasn't sure if he was just pledging his allegiance or if he was doing more than that.
Din simp, but Din bow for life.
No!
Is that what's actually happening here?
God, I hope not.
I doubt. Oh, I hope not. Gosh, I hope not.
I mean, I'm not going to be mad if it is, but I highly doubt it because I think Din's going to be written off the show in one way or another. I think this is his last season. That's my theory. That's my speculation.
I mean, my feelings is that I haven't seen a good Star Wars romance in a while.
Yeah, I mean, it could be done, maybe. I don't know. The age difference might be a interesting thing, but I mean,
they're
whatever.
legal, right? They're above 18.
Yeah, they're legal.
I've been trying to tell you that I don't care for the Darksaber for a long time now, and you still didn't believe me. So even now, with you having it, I still don't care about it. You get the picture, the cat.
I only care about you. No, I was kidding. Anyway, so the next thing I have is the armor takes the injured people that they had and takes them up to the fleet. And I thought she would have blasted through the clouds and started like just right into a space battle.
That's what I was afraid
I
of
thought
as
there was
well.
gonna be a
That's
space
what I
battle
thought
going on.
this was. I thought they kind of were building the tension. I was like, is there going to be an Imperial fleet there? I was thinking she was going to get up there and it was going to be like nothing but space debris.
Mm-hmm. Or like they're like deep into a giant space fight.
Battle of Coruscant, or
Yeah,
That's what I was
smaller.
afraid of.
much smaller. If it was that bad, then they would be gone
Yeah.
very quickly.
I had the same feelings based off of just how long they were taking to show them leaving the planet. I'm like, there must be a build up to something, and it's like, oh, gotcha. Nothing was actually happening.
Everything's normal.
Yeah. For now.
But then after that, there's a theory going around, and I don't really think I'd put too much stock in it, but it's an interesting conversation where people are thinking that the armor is a traitor or spy, and that's why she got out of Dodge before the Empire attacked.
But if that was the case, why would she put herself right in front of the fleet?
Yeah, but there's also the speculation maybe she's going up there to sabotage him or something. And I'm just like, I don't know if I buy that. She's been pretty hardcore for the Mandalorians this whole time, and it would be a huge shock if she actually was a bad guy.
I don't think she's a bad guy either, but to play devil's advocate, she did used to be Death Watch, and didn't
Well,
part
everyone
of
is.
Death Watch go be supporters of Maul?
Yeah,
So she
But-
could be one of those people.
but like that's only because he owned the Darksaber. But to be it's because he owned the Darksaber. It's weird because technically in Filoniverse, all these Mandalorians that we're seeing in the show used to be Death Watch at some point in time. Because Bo's people used to be Death Watch before Maul got the saber, and then they split. The Children of the Watch used to be Death Watch, but they split. And she said in the show, the Death Watch is no more. It split off into a bunch of different factions.
And they warred against each other.
Yeah, but technically everyone was Death Watch that we've seen, because I guess all the, quote, peaceful Mandalorians got yoked.
Yeah.
And we don't really see any of those in Rebels either, so they probably got yoked.
Well, they were peaceful.
It's
They were
almost like the
pacifists.
people
They
with
can't
weapons
fight
will
back.
win, right?
Exactly. Or at least stand a chance.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if they were to make the armor a spy, it would just feel like a cheap gotcha moment.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
I agree. I don't really like that theory either, but
I don't. It reminds me of a brief small tangent, but there was a character in Fallout 4 called Paladin Dance that they did this to. Like they made him like the very thing he was destroying in Fallout 4. For that, oh, if you care about him, then that means you can't be like true Brotherhood of Steel and if you know and all this stuff. I'm like, this feels like such a cheap gimmick, and that's because it really wasn't supposed to be that way originally, and then they changed their mind at the end for a gotcha moment.
Yeah. Another devil's advocate would be she's always been kind of cryptic. And you don't know much about her. And she and Gideon now, a little bit of a spoiler for later, but are the only two, quote, Mandalorians, because, you know, Gideon's, you know, whatever, that have Mandalorian helmets with horns on them.
I did find that interesting.
Yeah, so that's another reason people are speculating that maybe the armor isn't who she says she is.
It could just be that there's a cast of that helmet style. I mean, we've seen that there's certain styles that are copy and pasted amongst the Mandalorians themselves, right?
Yeah, but
it doesn't feel like it too far of a stretch that, you know, Moff Gideon was like, I want my own suit. And then he goes, that one's got horns on it. I want that one.
Yeah, I do feel like the horns on the Mandalorian helmets in the show, people like thinking that they mean Mandalorians is a bit of a stretch because they could be anything. Of course, they're kind of unique. We've only seen 2 of them so far, but there's like been literally no hint to like Maul loyalty or anything like that, and it would feel like really out of left field if it ever came to be like that.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a design choice for whatever else reason. It's not
looking cool.
It just looks cool. Yeah.
I mean, the whole point is that you're supposed to look imposing, right? Especially if you're Moff Gideon.
Dude, freaking yeah. Well, we might get to later. Like Gideon's suit's awesome. All right. So another speculation is maybe the Mandalorians that are on the planet are also maybe turncoats, because how did they survive all this time and not know that there was a giant Imperial base there? And why didn't Gideon stomp them out before this? There's a lot of questions surrounding them.
I don't think Disney's really smart enough to come up with a plot that sneaky.
I don't think so either. But it is John and Dave, and they are kind of spearheading and writing a lot of this show, so who knows?
It would have had to be something that they just came up with, though, this season, not leading up to it.
But, you know, part of me wonders, like, how much of it is, like, you know, the upper-ups going, you have to have this in your season, and they have to go, and they're just going, like, what? You want to have all of this in this one season? And then, you know, the upper-ups like, yeah, we're going to have so much action, it's going to be great, and we're going to advertise it, non-stop action, and it's like, the writers are just here going, oh my god, I have to do all that in, like, 8 episodes? You kidding me? You know?
Well, speaking of action, the Axe Woves and Paz fight on the boat.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny because Axe Wove seemed actually more reasonable than Paz was.
Yeah.
It's like I wasn't expecting Axe to be like, just what are you doing, man? Just sit down, you know.
I mean, he did call him a primitive.
Yeah, but
he was antagonizing him.
He was, but
Paz had a
like,
shorter temper.
Yeah. Paz is like, I will not have my honor questioned.
Yeah.
He handed it to him, Paz. Paz is a beast. Also, if I was one of them, I wouldn't have cared that a dumb, tiny green alien was trying to break us up.
Yeah, or why was it that Grogu that made you go, yeah, what we're doing is stupid, right?
Maybe they were both already kind of like, I'm ready to just be done and move on. I don't know.
I mean, Paz obviously won that fight, even though I think Axe is pretty cool. Paz definitely won that fight.
Oh,
maybe
for sure.
Paz knew he had won.
Which is interesting because Paz almost kind of laid out the floor with him, whereas when Bo was fighting him, they seemed pretty equal. So I wonder how Bo would do with a fight in a fight against Paz. That'd been interesting.
Well, to me, I'm like, I'm watching this. It's like, yeah, it's like how many different versions of Uno do people play by, right? You can't stack two. What are you talking about? We do that all the time. Like that's what it sounded like watching these two argue about like what rules that they can and cannot do, right?
Yeah. It's like the knight can't move that way. Yes, it can.
That's when you say, let's lay out all the rules and restart.
Yeah. But and then shortly after that, the not mythosaur crashes the ship, and I was wondering why did they not just divert course?
Why not
Yeah.
go backwards?
Why not stop and turn around or something?
Or
Yeah,
like
they're like-
turn your steering wheel a little to the left instead of straight
Yeah.
into the monster.
First off, there's so many things wrong with this sequence. One, another random giant monster that I've never known to be native to Mandalore. If it had been, Mandalorians would have probably hunted it to extinction, just like the mythosaurs, because it's just too big and bad. And then second, it crashes their ship for no dang reason. They could have, dodged it, and then instead of escaping and letting it destroy it. And then third, it chases them into a cave that just conveniently happens to go straight to the forge.
Yeah.
And I thought all of that
Yeah.
was rushed and very contrived.
Why were they continuing to drive if the forge was right there and the dudes knew on the ship
Yeah.
knew where the forge
Where the
was?
forge
Why
was, yep.
did they do
I
that?
don't get it.
Yeah.
It just felt so contrived and so rushed. Yeah, go
And
ahead.
maybe this is like a Fallout moment. It's like, oh, well, this animal used to be a thing, and it was usually about 100 times smaller, but through the power of radiation, it's mutated to this gigantic size.
It's Gojira!
I mean, I'm not saying that's what happened, but like,
Perhaps.
She did
Stranger things have
allude-
happened.
Yeah, she did allude to animals' dormant species being reawakened because she'd seen the mythosaur,
mhm.
but she didn't say that outright. But thankfully for her, another somehow seemingly giant monster also
showed up.
showed up. So, and yeah, people were like, "It's the mythosaur. It's that and this." It's not the mythosaur. It looked nothing like it. It was a giant Anguirus from Godzilla. That's what it was.
Right. I mean, I feel like I've seen something like this before in another franchise.
Yeah, giant Ankylosaurus from Jurassic Park. That's what it was. Meat eating.
I was gonna say it kind of reminded me of something from that universe.
Yeah. So yeah, the convenient cave to the forge. That was weird. But once they were in there, it was a really neat moment. Like, this is the forge. It's been the life of our culture or whatever. And Paz is like, you lived here? And they're like, yeah. And the other guys are like, we never left. And it was a really neat little moment
And then it's
that they didn't stay on very well
Yeah.
for very long. And the forge looked neat. It reminded me of like the Mines of Moria. And I was like, well, I guess they're making Mandalorians dwarves now. That was interesting.
well, I mean,
kind of-
it's not too far fetched that if you're having to mine to get the Beskar, or like just build the forge down there, right?
I guess. It's just, yeah.
And it does seem like that the top of the forge is near the surface, right? And they just dug down to
Mhm.
make these gigantic things. So
Yeah. But yeah. Sudden stormtrooper attack. Pacing is
I know.
wild.
I
I
was really
was
enjoying
shocked.
this moment until that happened.
Yeah. And I was like, more Mandalorians? Maybe? Is it Ben Rao? Who is it? Oh, it's Gideon's people.
Hmm.
And there's gonna be a fight. Oh boy.
And this is where I was hoping that IG-12 would just been like pulls out a bunch of blasters and starts going to town, and it's just like, no, I'm gonna cower in the corner.
No,
I'm
it's
like,
just Grogu. He doesn't know what to do.
yeah, it's like, okay, so you brought him back to be nothing.
Yeah, to be fair, this fight scene that soon enveloped was really cool, and they did some really freaking brutal moves. Like, I thought it was awesome where Din just like throws the guy to the ground and point blank shoots him like 3 times in the head, and freaking Bo punches one of them in the neck with her pistol and shoots at the same time, and just
Mhm.
really cool choreography and brutal fight scene.
And they're just like, oh, you have Beskar? Sure, I can still shoot you in the kneecaps.
Yeah, like it makes sense that they would know how to fight people in Beskar once they figured out, oh, they have Beskar. They know how to get around that because they wear
Yeah.
Beskar and they fight each other all the time. So it makes sense that they would know how to eat through them maybe a little bit more than the Dark Troopers do.
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool, and I'm glad that they were able to kind of mince through them pretty easily, because if they were just kind of steamrolled by the stormtroopers, I would have been like, what? Why?
Mm-hmm.
It would have felt weird, like just because they have Beskar armor now that you can't fight now. That wouldn't have made sense to me. So I'm glad that it was good, and they did more of the killing than were being killed.
Mm-hmm. Paz gives Axe Wolves cover so he can fly out to get reinforcements, right?
And that's another speculation people have, that maybe Axe Wolves is a traitor spy, because he gets out to go call for reinforcements, but maybe he's going to get out of there. And
I don't think so. I highly doubt that.
Well,
also, how's he going to get reinforcements? They can't talk to the people above, and they don't have a ship anymore.
Are we at the point that if anyone leaves the main protagonist, that you're just automatically a traitor? Is that what people are thinking now?
According to the fandom, yeah. They're just thinking, because the episode is called The Spies, and we only see one legitimate spy, and it's at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think anyone else in the Mandalorians are technically spies. And it's also because they are also referencing the scene where they find Gideon's shuttle, and there's a piece of Beskar armor in there, or whatever, in the side of the ship. Well, that's obviously explained. His stormtroopers now have Beskar armor, so they could have broken them out.
Yeah,
that's
that
probably
makes
what
sense.
that is. That connection is. And then in the scene with the chick at the beginning, she specifically says their contacts in the Republic relayed the information that Navarro was helped by Mandalorians. So it wasn't Mandalorians or a double agent telling them that the Mandalorians had done it. It was the Republic intelligence that did. So none of the Mandalorians, I think, were a part of it. And plus, Bo's group wasn't even part of that Navarro heist or the Navarro fight. So if there was a traitor, it'd have to be coming from the covert.
Yeah.
Because they were the only ones in the Navarro fight. So that's another thing that gives people credence to suspect the armor, but I still don't buy it, because it's explained how she got that information, and it had nothing to do with the Mandalorians themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And Gideon himself was surprised at how they were working together. So I don't think any of the Mandalorians are really spies. It's just people kind of speculating, and they're like, oh, this guy left, this character left, this character left, or whatever. And I just don't think so. I think it's mainly they're saving those characters for whatever purpose in the future. I don't think they're like traitors or anything.
Hot take. Grogu's the spy.
Yeah, and the other thing is that just because Bo-Katan was there, they're like, two houses are working together. It's like, no, it's one house and like one other person.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And so they kind of rushed the connection as well.
Yeah.
But getting to the point where you and I have both a major issue.
They foolishly chased them. They're obviously running away, and they chased them.
They're chasing them as they purposely retreat. It's very obvious that they were falling back, right? As they are pursuing them, it goes from rocks to, hey, that's an Imperial style like structure entrance. Yeah. You still keep chasing them.
Mm-hmm.
You see more Imperial structure, and then eventually to full-on Imperial hallways. And I'm like, dude, stop! It's very clearly a trap. What are you all doing?
And they wait until the very end where she's like, "What is this place?" to say something like that. Like you're not having any you're not sussing it out while you're chasing them down these hallways. You don't know what they're doing here.
Yeah, as they get closer and closer to Gideon, it's more and more structured, and it's like, you're not in the mines anymore. You're in an Imperial facility. Wake the frick up, people.
Even though it didn't make sense logically for them to do that, visually, I thought the transition looked really cool for me as a viewer.
It was a gradual one, and it was neat, but it was also like painfully obvious they were walking into
Oh
a trap.
Yeah,
but
it's not like they walked through a bunch of broken down rubble and then there all of a sudden there was an opening, and
Yeah.
it was just like, oh, there's
It
hangers
wasn't
and
like-
stuff.
it was clearly leading up to that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it wasn't all of a sudden ray shields. It was gradual. Like they could obviously see it coming. So I found that odd. Though when they were trapped and freaking Gideon comes down,
Well-
that was awesome.
Well, when the doors closed, and like, what is this?
Mhm.
And he's like, Mando's like, it's an ambush. I'm like, well, it took
No,
you that. Yeah, it's like, it took you that long to figure that out.
Yeah, but freaking and Mando put up a fight. He did a good job, but apparently he's no Paz.
Well,
And he just
well, but before you skip ahead, right?
yeah.
They all just watch as he eventually gets taken hostage. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
Bo, you have this thing on your belt
It's called a dark saber.
that
Yeah,
can cut
right?
holes, and you use it later.
Yeah. You use it
Like
just like Qui-Gon to get out of there, but you can't use it to get through that door.
Or even just like stab a little hole through it, stab a
Mhm.
hole so you can like put your gun through there
Yeah,
and
Break
just
the glass so that your friends
Instead
can
of-
shoot out.
Instead of
Yeah.
everyone trying to shoot the glass out and it not work, Because that's what they did. They were trying to shoot at the door, and nothing was happening. Are
maybe
you
this
guys
is why she
stupid?
didn't want the Darth saber because she didn't know how to use it.
Jeez. But Gideon comes down, and his coolest performance was one line when he had his helmet on,
Yeah.
and it sounded so good. And he's like, I don't even forget what he said. I just remember it being so freaking awesome. It was something like disarm him. I think it was disarm him,
Mm-hmm.
and then they take all of Din's weapons away. But he just like chops down. This is freaking awesome, imposing black, really cool looking helmet, and he's just really deep electronic voice going disarm him, and I freaking loved that. I thought that was just so freaking cool, and I want him to keep his helmet on for the rest of the
Yeah.
next episode and just talk with that on, because holy crap, that was so freaking cool. Then he for some reason is like, instead of kill him, take him into the debriefing room. I don't know what that's about. I honestly don't know why he captured him and didn't just kill him, because he pretty much seemed like he was going to kill everyone else, so why keep Din alive, Unless he wants to clone him.
Plot armor.
I mean, maybe he wants to torture him to be like, I'm so mad at you, let me get out all my anger on you.
I don't even know if it's that much of plot armor. It's just a weird choice because
That's what I mean by plot armor.
well, it's speculation that Din's gonna yeet from this season anyway.
Maybe it's some deep thing, like maybe he kept him so that he can manipulate Grogu into letting them like take all of his blood so we can get the midichlorians from him to use to inject into his.
Ooh, that's a thought.
Is there something?
Maybe he is gonna use them to try and
Maybe he
get
is
Grogu back.
playing 3D chess here.
But is Disney playing 3D chess?
Probably not.
Who knows? Guess we'll find out next episode. So after that,
The part I really don't like.
so Paz freaking is awesome.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
does
really
a
good fight
stupid
scene.
thing.
He does a stupid thing.
A really stupid thing.
Say there's too many of them. Yeah, okay. Close the door in front of you and go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you closed it behind you.
Yeah.
Wrong direction.
Why did you have to do that? There's no reason to do that.
In Star Wars, how many times have we seen them go through a door, then blast the controls with the blaster so it just becomes inoperable, right?
Yeah.
You could have done that. You could have walked through, shot it, and go, all right, let's go. But no, this man was like, I want a Halo Reach ending.
Yeah. How convenient and ironic, rather, that he goes out Halo Reach style on a glassed planet.
Yeah, right?
I was so sad when he died.
Well,
At least
And-
he
Allegedly.
yote a bunch of
But think
People.
about his son. He just
Yeah.
left his son now without a father. And we don't know if that son has a mother. We've never seen the mother.
He's definitely dead, bro. He's gone.
This is Disney we're talking about. They resurrected the Emperor.
They could bring back Paz in the form of clones because he's there, and they could just take his body and use it for cloning.
I mean,
but,
he didn't take a blow straight through the heart. They put one in his leg, they put one in his shoulder.
He took 3 electrostaffs in the chest. He's done.
We watched the Emperor fall down a shaft, explode,
That's
and
the
then that
Emperor.
exploded. It doesn't matter with Disney.
That's the
true.
Emperor. Though.
We also saw Maul get cut in half. We also
That's-
saw the guy from
that's a
that one
Force guy.
show.
I don't
get
like it any
stabbed.
more than y'all do, but they're Force people, and we've always known that
And
people
Paz
with
is
the
the most
Force.
badass Mandalorian. What's your point?
Yeah, he's a Mandalorian. He doesn't have the Force. At least he's not a Jedi.
But he's a
not as
chunky
Force
boy.
sensitive. So what? He's gone. Much like probably Jon Favreau is from the franchise.
I'm just like, you didn't cut his head off. He's probably coming back.
There's still a chance.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Maybe they'll put him in a bacta tank immediately.
Nah, I doubt it. The craziest part of this whole episode is that they just end on that.
Yeah.
There's nothing after it. It's just his dead body, and then it goes to the credits. I'm like, what? You gotta be kidding me.
I'm sure that was a Dave Filoni choice, and
Yeah. I can see that being a Dave choice.
And
Because yeah.
it's this season in whole. It's like all the interesting parts are always at the end, and it's like I'm sick and tired of having a cliffhanger every week.
Well, I wouldn't say the most interesting part. I mean, the most interesting part obviously is at the end, but it's not the only interesting part. I think this episode is way more solid than most of the other ones. My favorite episode so far is still episode 2, but this episode was pretty consistent throughout. Some of the pacing here and there was weird, but that's par for the course for this whole season. And I felt like this episode in general was way more solid when it comes to content. A lot happened, and it was all plot driven. So there wasn't a whole lot of filler, mushy fluff going on in this episode. So I thought in that regard, this episode was really good. So I would probably be ranking it higher, and we'll get to that here soon.
any last thoughts
Yeah.
before we go on to the...
Yeah, we're pretty much done with the episode. So if we don't have any, go ahead and we can have our last thoughts on stuff. So we can go with Cap first. What's your last final thoughts on this episode?
And your ranking.
It's not what I wanted to see. It's way too rushed. I feel like, and this just encapsulates this season as a whole, it's just one thing after another, and it's frustrating to me because we don't get a chance to breathe. We don't get a chance to really like explore some of these possibilities. Like when they got their home on Navarro, I was like, cool, let's explore this. There could have been so many stories of them like patrolling the planet and whatnot as, you know, form of payment, and them getting to know the locals. But no, it's just
helping them like fend off other randoms,
dealing with another attack.
You know, that one pirate guy yeeted during that episode, so he could have come back with some more forces, and you know, who knows? There's a bunch of different stuff that could have happened. It's definitely rushed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel you. I understand and.
Yeah,
agreed.
so this is leading to a finale that I kind of predicted at the end of last episode, and it's a finale I didn't want to be happening. Did I like it more than the last episode? Yeah, but not by much.
I think they might have overcorrected, because one of the only critiques that I've heard from the last two seasons is that there's a lot of filler, in a sense of mainly one-off episodes, and they were good episodes, but it didn't really feel like much was going on until later in the seasons. And when in this case, I do feel like they're trying to cram a lot more into this season and make things happen quicker, but I think they're overestimating it. And like I said, it's this weird mix of things being too slow and then really just super rushed at the same time. It's hard to really comprehend.
I think it would have been a lot better if you had given each of these episodes, or the time frames for some of these episodes, 3 episodes, right? Like them getting back to Navarro, at least give them an episode or 2 of them doing stuff on Navarro.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of stuff that they could have padded the time out more, maybe added an episode here and there. make the season maybe a little longer. I don't know why they had to limit it to just 8 episodes.
Yeah, you're
Freaking
not dealing
Andor.
with you're not dealing with a TV network. You
Yeah.
can make a 20 episodes if you want. You
To
know.
be fair, they do have to worry about, the actual cost of filming the
Yeah,
episodes.
but Andor looks so much better
It's true.
in scale and scope. And it's 12 episodes.
Yeah, not an excuse.
But this is just kind of shows how good a Star Wars show can be.
Mhm.
And I don't know why they're not putting that kind of effort into this show. I don't know if it's the people running it. I don't know if it's the writers,
Or
if it's
is this the
whatever
thing
it
of, like,
is.
You get
but-
one episode, do your thing. You get an episode, do
Yeah.
your thing, and it's all slapped together.
I honestly think Kathleen Kennedy just stepped her foot in it. She saw that Mandalorian was really hype and people were really liking it,
And doing
And-
well.
She wanted a piece
and
of that
is doing
praise.
well. And she saw that, the fans were loving Grogu. But when they got Grogu out of the picture at the end of season 2, she had to she wanted them to figure out a way to get him back in the show, because without Grogu, it wasn't going to be as good or whatever. And
At
I was
least
like,
in her
no.
mind,
Yeah, in her mind. But I think it would have been so much better if he wasn't. And
And then he could always
we
come back in
could come
season
back
4
in
as
a
a
different
Jedi.
yeah. He'd come back in a different season or different show. Maybe there's been rumors that there's going to be a Luke show. He could have been in that. He could have just been in that. I don't know. It's just whack.
All right,
And-
let Captain finish his rating
Okay.
and
Rating, gonna give it like a 5.5.
that's
It's
interesting,
because last week I gave 5 for the last episode. It's marginally better.
dude.
it's only 0.5 better than last
I'm
week's
gonna have to
episode.
disagree
There's
strongly
there's
with that
so
one.
much pacing issues. This is what I was talking about. They're rushing too many big things happening in 2 episodes. If you had given
Yeah.
the time on Navarro before this happened with more Mandalorians, I would have given it a much higher rating. But they're being extremely idiotic and trying to retake a planet with 2 clans. This whole episode is stupid. I don't think it should have happened at this point.
No, yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But the quality of it is good, which is why it gets a 5.5.
All right, Kli'nah.
All right, I give this episode an 8 because yes, there are some pacing issues, but overall, I really enjoyed this episode. The ending made me emotional, and it gave me a lot more feelings than the majority of this season did. And so I thought it was much better. Yes, there were some pacing issues, but they weren't as bad as some of the other episodes in this season. No, yes, going to this place right after Navarro was too quickly, but I'm going to ignore that fact in my review. Because if I was judging every episode on pacing, everything would be in the toilet because it's terrible. But overall,
That's fair.
I give it
Yeah.
an 8.
Cool. Yeah. So for me, like I said, I think overall I enjoyed this episode. This episode was solid. One of the probably my second favorite episode of the season so far. Who knows what the last episode will be? Yes, episode 2 is still my favorite. This one, yeah, I'll have to give it probably an 8 as well. Most of the stuff that I had issues with were issues I've had for most of the season. Just mainly pacing and some kind of weird logical things that were going on. But overall, it was enjoyable, much more than the last episode, for me anyway. And it's just kind of up there. The way it moves the plot along, Gideon, all that stuff, really cool. So, yeah, I think I'm going to stick with an 8. So, now that we've got our ratings out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about what we think is going to happen in the next episode. And Kli'nah is chomping at the bit, so you go first.
All right. So I'm going to say what I think Disney might do, not what I want to happen necessarily.
Okay.
I'm afraid that they're going to kill off Din because, yes, it seems like they're trying to get other characters to be the main character Mandalorian. And I feel like as long as Din is around and alive, he's going to be all anyone thinks is the Mandalorian. And so I think in order for them to move on and focus on other Mandalorians as the center of this show and not have to have Din in every episode, they have to kill him off. On another note, a little bit more positive of a note, with Bo, I have a theory that I thought of earlier in this review because of something Ankin said, is I think, because they obviously have to go somehow get reinforcements to come back. They can't contact the people in outer space. They don't have a spaceship to go get the people outside of the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen? They're going to wait 3 days before they don't hear anything and then go, oh, maybe something happened. We should go check on them. No, So I have a theory that maybe Bo is going to go get the mythosaur. And, because Disney's stupid and doesn't have any sense of pacing, she's going to train it within this episode and then ride it out to go and just yeet Gideon.
And that also brings up something that I just thought of now when you were talking about that. Maybe the reason why, so you know how the armor goes up first before the battle even starts, and then Axe Woves gets out during the battle. Maybe he will go and tell them somehow. I mean, he's only got a jetpack. He's not going to be able to go back up in space. But maybe somehow he'll get the fleet notified.
Maybe they'll shoot the rocket, their rocket from their jetpack up as a flare. I don't know.
I think that's probably what they were alluding to, is maybe Axe will go and warn the fleet somehow, and then they'll come to reinforce them. Mm-hmm. But before I get to mine, let's go ahead and have Captain tell us what he thinks is going to happen next episode.
It's going to be an absolute mess. So Gideon's going to be defeated. I'm not going to say killed, because I have a feeling they'll keep dragging him along. I think you're not too off the mark with regards to the mythosaur. She's probably going to grab it and just magically figure out how to pilot the darn thing, and just going to go smashing through all the hangars and destroying stuff, probably. I don't think they're going to kill Din, because I think he's too much of a staple of the series. Now, granted, unlike you, I do think they're capable of doing episodes without him. They've done it with the Clone Wars. It's totally possible to have a series called The Mandalorian, maybe just add the word S on the end and be The Mandalorians.
Yeah.
That'd be a branding nightmare.
And then you're just going along after that to whichever one. But, it was called The Clone Wars, and there was been several episodes where you didn't see a clone. So,
yeah. But it's not the clone. It's the Clone Wars. So it's about the wars, not the clone.
Yeah. So I'm saying it is that it's not plausible to be done without him, without necessarily killing him off. I think you'll get a lot of hate for that.
I think you'll get a lot of hate regardless.
Yeah.
I think what's going to happen, the fleet will either be, downsized, but at the end, I think they'll win. I think what's going to happen is that Axe Wolf, he'll probably just grab a TIE fighter as it's going up and just hijack it. Because
that's clever. Yeah.
I mean, we've seen something like that already when they were dealing with the pirates on Navarro.
Yeah. That'd be a clever allusion to that.
Yeah, so Gideon will probably be defeated, but he'll just disappear conveniently.
He's too cool now. He can't die.
Out.
He's too freaking cool now.
They'll magically get control of Mandalore, and then there will probably be a Thrawn cameo at the end. That's what I think.
Okay. All right, so for me, I don't think there's going to be any more mentions of Thrawn. I think it's going to wrap up this particular story somehow. That's it, the beginning of this episode is probably going to be the only connection really we have to Ahsoka and Thrawn stuff. I think I'm a little bit more on the side of Kli'nah, where they're going to have some way of writing Din off the show. If they don't, it's going to be very interesting, because I've been following the leaks and the rumors about what's going on behind the scenes with this episode or with this show. And if they don't write Din off in some way, fashion, killing him off or whatever, it's going to be very interesting where they go on from here.
How do you have Grogu without his space stat, though?
Because they're already set him up to be with Bo. He was riding on Bo's lap in this episode.
You know, they could write Din off by having him go back and he just lives on Navarro and is the
Is the Marshal.
Marshal.
Yeah.
And then
I
he just
doubt at
doesn't
this
come back.
point. I honestly highly doubt at this point. He's too deep in this whole Mandalorian thing now, and it would be so weird if he just turned tail, like escaped, and then just decided to retire. You know, it'd be weird. It'd be really weird.
I don't know, man. You go through enough crap, and you might go, I'm getting too old for this.
I don't know.
Maybe
He's not that
Bo
old.
breaks his heart, and he just can't live with being on the same planet as her anymore.
I think that hopefully, this is what I'm hoping. Now, what I was saying is what I think they're gonna do, just in the context of what I've been hearing and watching. What I hope they do is they somehow bring Boba Fett into the scene. That'd be great because Boba Fett's my guy. But also that whole thing that Kli'nah was talking about, her taming and riding the mythosaur stuff. Yeah, it's stupid as crap, but I would love it. I'd love every single bit of it. I want to see the mythosaur just wreck face. I want to see. I don't care who ride it, and I just want to see it destroy the base. I just want to see it like in the sunlight doing cool stuff. Because we've only seen a glimpse of it, and I need more. So I don't care.
Giving Disney excuses to
I honestly don't care. It's the last episode of the season, and after this season, I'm pretty much checked out. So you just do whatever you want, fam. Go hog wild. Give me all the mythosaur you can. I think they are gonna somehow geek in and have it be the Bo and Grogu show. If they even continue this show, because there's an interesting interviews from Star Wars Celebration with Dave Filoni and Rick Famuyiwa, or however you pronounce his last name, about the show, where I think Rick said, what does it really mean when you say the Mandalorian? So they're like trying to get us to think like maybe the Mandalorian isn't really about Din, it's about blah blah. So I think they are trying to push that notion out there that Din's gonna be gone. He's not gonna be the Mandalorian for much longer.
What if they end the Mandalorian by ending all of the Mandalorians? What if they just
weird
kill them all?
Gideon wins,
and they end the show.
Yeah. I mean, they could. They totally could, and just have a few survive, and they be just basically how they were the entire time, just roaming mercenaries.
I would not put it past them to kill everyone off and just have Bo and Grogu escape.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Don't give them ideas.
That does not happen.
It's too late. They already got it in the books. It's coming out next week. They can't change anything. All right. Well, that's this episode. I'm honestly surprised because I thought this episode in general was way better than most of what we've been getting. I still like episode 4 and 5. Those are really two solid episodes. Episode 2 is my favorite still. And this one. Everything else in between those is kind of just meh.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll see what happens with the last episode.
It's almost like episodes 1 through 3 were supposed to be the whole season. And they squished
what makes
it
me
down
so
to 3
mad
episodes.
too
Yeah.
is that the entire Pershing episode still feels useless because the only thing it did was introduce that one character.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters.
It also explained why when they asked about the cloning technology, it's unavailable right now.
Yeah. And so honestly, that whole episode could have been cut down like 20 minutes.
As of right now, it's 40-minute filler.
It could have just been cut and they could have done some 2-minute scene to introduce this chick.
Yeah,
really.
It's weird. It was a really weird out of the blue episode. But anyway, next week it's gonna be the finale, and I'm scared.
I don't think I've been ever so thank God it's over. I can move on with my life.
Yeah. Well,
at this point, I really hope they do something wild that I can just be like, all right, cool, and check out of Disney Star Wars Forever, like bringing back Boba just to kill him off or something stupid. Because if they do that, I'm done. It's over. You've lost me completely.
That was me with the Obi-Wan series.
See, that I can easily just write off, and I because it's totally separate from like the Mandalorian and Dave Filoni stuff that he's doing, that I'm a little bit more interested, ironically, in what Dave's doing, even though I hate him and everything he stands for. But it's just more interesting in the grand scheme of things than like the Obi-Wan show was.
Yeah.
Because the Obi-Wan show, none of that happens. None of that happened. I can easily just ignore it, like I do Resistance. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So this show, I'm more invested because of the characters and stuff I really like, and it's wild. It's really wild.
This season of the show has kind of put the nail in the coffin for hope for Disney Star Wars, in my opinion, because they've taken one of the few grand gems that they've made, and they've kind of just crapped all over it. And so, in my mind, as of right now, it's like the show ended at season 2.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of people think it should have ended.
Just like how a lot of people are like, yeah, Endgame, that's the end of the MCU, and that's it for them.
For me, Star Wars ended at Return of the Jedi.
And I'm to be
including
honest,
including the prequels.
Well, yeah,
prequels are good.
Yeah, because like I just don't care for much after. Because if we think about post Return of the Jedi, is there anything that Disney's created that you're like, man, I wish this could be in the Legends?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian, but you could almost fit that in Legends if you really wanted to.
I mean, yeah, not really, because of just how the state of Mandalore. That is what Dave's done to it. You can't fit that in Legends. Just not possible.
Nah, I said most of it.
I mean, you could do something different with Mandalore, have it more Legends continuity, and just explore the character of Din, and go from there.
Yeah.
Alright, so we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode. Thank you guys for chilling with us here at Cassus Café, and I can't wait for you to join us for episode 8 next week. We should have the whole gang, at least Tykoth here, and maybe a few others, who knows? Maybe not, but we'll see. Yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Please like and subscribe and share the video if you liked it. And if you didn't, thank you for listening this long, like Nerdrotic likes to say. And we'll catch you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.